Game is looking fantabulous. Look at that foliage.
Yeah.
Remember when everyone used to talk about foliage, and it was like a big foliage, like arms race?
It was all foliage and water.
You guys won that arms race based on what I'm
you.
seeing here.
Welcome back to PlayStation Underground. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Crash Bandicoot, the Insane Trilogy. Specifically, we're taking a look at Crash 3 Warped, the third and final game in this trilogy. I'm joined by my friend and compatriot, Sid Schumann.
Why, hello.
And we're also joined by Dan Tengway from Vicarious Visions.
That's right.
I almost said Vicarious Visions, like the way that I messed it up earlier.
Got a real problem with that word.
That's a really tough word for me. So let's dive on into some gameplay here, and we can start talking about all kinds of stuff. So this is obviously the long-awaited remaster, remake, something of.
So this is a remaster.
You want to go?
And here's a good example of
We'll see who is obsolete.
remastered cinematic.
I got to say, though, I mean, I feel like you're selling yourself slightly short calling it a remaster because I've never seen anything kind of to this level.
Right. So yeah, we consider it kind of a AAA remaster.
Okay.
And our team's been very experienced making AAA games, and we've tried to treat this as we would any other title we make, original or not. So, a lot of love and care has gone into this. I mean, we just, take a step back real quick and just kind of look at the scene. I mean,
look at those physics. They didn't have this kind of stuff back on the PS1. Come on. Remaster.
Only with the power and precision. By the way, we're seeing this on.
So this supports PS4 Pro.
Yes, it does.
And tell me a little bit about what you guys are doing on the PS4 Pro version.
So for the PS4 Pro, we've enhanced the graphics and upped the resolution to look even sharper and more colorful than ever.
Nice. So we're sticking with 1080 here for YouTube, but game is looking fantabulous. Look at that foliage.
Yeah.
Remember when everyone used to talk about foliage, and it was like a big foliage, like arms race?
It was all foliage and water.
You guys won that arms race based on what I'm seeing here.
Yeah. No, that was a big push for us. I think you think back when Crash Bandicoot first came out on the PlayStation 1. And it was, by my eyes, probably the best looking game on the PlayStation 1. And that's a huge legacy to live up to. So, when we took this on, we said we've got to make that big of an impression. And I like to think that, we've got beautiful amounts of foliage. It's just a lush environment. And obviously, as we've seen, both Crash and his enemies just ooze personality.
Okay,
which is super important to us.
Careful with that one.
Up.
You gonna go for it?
Oh! Almost.
Yeah.
Smooth.
Well, at least he got the one up.
Yeah.
So death is a large part of the Crash franchise, and we try to make sure that
That's one way to do
each
it.
death it needs to be funny, it needs to be amusing, and I think we have over like 100 death animations in the game.
Really?
It's pretty crazy.
Oh yeah.
So what does that process look like when you're going back to the original games created by Naughty Dog and kind of redoing all this? How painstaking is that process of trying to get everything just right, but also making it work in this new version?
It is, well, painstaking is a very good way of describing it. But we had the luck, I guess, of getting a hold getting a hold of the original level meshes.
Oh,
so that was kind of the cornerstone that we built on, and that allowed us to basically then remaster the gameplay, knowing that if we fit within those level parameters, it would at least be in the right direction. But after that, it just involves a lot of iteration. It involves playing the original games. It involves just scrubbing back and forth. It also really involves, I think, just having a team who's really fans of the original and know the original front and back. We've got some team members where this was the game of their childhood, and I'll give you a good example. Jump. You know how critical jump is for a platformer.
of course.
And so, we're like, oh yeah, jump. Yeah, we got that. We had that in our previous games, and we implemented jump the first time, and we go to them, they'll be like, yeah, no, you guys didn't get it. I'm like, all right. So we go back to the drawing board, work on it again, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's better, but you guys still didn't get it." And so we have probably iterated on Jump more than I think pretty much anything else in this game.
Wow.
Yeah. And but the end result, yeah, the end result will hopefully speak for itself.
Well, yeah, it looks incredible, but it looks like it feels exactly like I remember it.
Well, that was what we were shooting for.
Yep.
So it's good to hear.
Yeah, it's always kind of a difficult bridge to gap, I guess, trying to revisit something that people remember in such a specific way. But if you go back and play the original Crash games, they're probably not quite exactly as you remember them. This looks like how I remember the old Crash games.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it's one of those things where we know, like I was saying before about the levels, you know you got to have certain things.
The guy's in his underwear.
Yes.
Yeah, he blasted his robe off.
You know, you have to have certain things that are exactly faithful to the original, but you also want to create just a little room for the team to kind of innovate and, you know, add their own stamp.
Yeah.
And add a few surprises so that, you know.
Are there any specific examples of the team leaving their own mark on this that you can share?
Certainly. I mean, you know, we can take kind of a large example. When we looked at that two-headed ogre dude, you know, he was swinging giant turkey clubs instead of, you know, regular clubs. And that was just a flourish that the art team thought would be funny.
Oh.
A little extra flavor to it. But, you know, taken on a broader level, we also decided to, you know, take some of the, well, I think it's the benefit of hindsight, I guess. You know, the game's been out 20 years, and, you know, fans have endlessly dissected it. So, you know, we were able to take, say, a feature that we thought worked really well for the third game and then apply it to the other two. The biggest of those would be time trials.
Oh, cool.
Time trials were a fantastic innovation at the time that was added exclusively for the third game and created a lot of longevity. But, you know, we had to build it, and we're like, well, geez, why don't we just add it to the first two games as well?
Yeah.
So now all games have time trials. That's 80+ levels of time trials for all the fans to just play over again and again. So pretty excited about that.
Yeah, I don't think anybody will complain about that change.
No.
Are there any like forums that you're keeping an eye on where people say they replaced it with a turkey club? How dare they? They're besmirching the legacy of Crash.
Well, I think after they watch this video, I'm sure it will appear on Reddit or NeoGAF, but I think people will enjoy the turkey club.
It's fun. It fits. It fits perfectly.
I enjoy it a lot.
Just looking great though, and I noticed the audio seems to be greatly reworked. It feels very faithful, but yeah, you guys totally like re-recorded the score, I want to say, right?
Yes, we did. We did get a hold of the original score as they were pressed on the original discs, and we were able to then take out the rhythm tracks. So that just pretty much helped us nail the tempo. And from that, we were able to layer new instrumentation to create a richer track that you're hearing now.
This is awesome.
I think that there's more skill involved in trying to play in such a way that you're showing off all the deaths, but not quite getting to a game over screen. So kudos on that.
Yeah.
Takes great skill.
So Crash Bandicoot, Crash 3 Warped actually first came out in 1998, I want to say?
Yes, 98.
Oh my god, I can't believe it's been that long.
Yeah,
so
I feel old.
It's been almost 20 years, which is incredible to say. What do you think that we've all learned as an industry and as game designers in the last 19 years?
What have we learned? Wow.
And how does that apply to your work on this game?
Yeah. So I think for me what has been interesting, at least I'll speak for myself, I think more so than the industry as a whole. That would be very presumptuous of me. But for myself, I think one of the key lessons that we found in kind of modernizing Crash was, you know, we had really wanted to make sure that it was faithful and true to the challenge, but that didn't mean we couldn't go in and try to communicate some of those challenges more cleanly and try to make it so that, you know, players could better understand what was being asked of them so that they weren't necessarily always just learning by trial and error, but in fact could, you know, okay, I see that this similar pattern's coming up and, you know, I know how to deal with it now.
I mean, these are not easy games.
They are not, no. No.
So you
Especially-
definitely, it looks like you've kept some of that, or a lot of that challenge here.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, especially by the time we got to Crash 3, I think that the designers were really starting to stretch their legs a little bit
Yeah,
and have
yeah.
some fun with the designs.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's actually quite amazing, almost from like a historical perspective, to see the evolution from Crash 1 to Crash 3 and see, Naughty Dog was learning each time they put out a game, and you can see how they changed their design and evolved kind of their thinking in order to get to the point that we're seeing right now, which is Crash Warped. And again, we have the benefit of hindsight, so we were able to apply a lot of those lessons across the board and just create kind of a more cohesive trilogy overall.
Cool.
Should we take a look at another level?
Sure.
And here we are checking out Orange Asphalt. This is another level from Crash 3 Warped in the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, coming out June 30th on PS4, I want to say. Is that right?
That is correct.
Look at that.
Yeah.
I know all my marketing. This is cool. See, I never played Crash 3, and this is kind of bananas to see this. I didn't know they were doing stuff like this.
Oh, yeah. No, there's always been a trend of providing a little gameplay novelty in the Crash games. Starting with the original Crash Bandicoot, you had hog riding, and then they made that polar bear riding in Crash 2, and then they're like, well, let's add jetpack and a jet board. By Crash 3, they went all in. I mean, motorcycles, jet skis, planes, scuba gear. It's all there, and it's all here in the Insane Trilogy as well. So,
And looking better than ever, I got to say. I mean,
yeah, this level's gorgeous.
So here's a good example of a place where I'm sure you guys had to make a decision whether you were going to tinker with the original kind of gameplay feeling of this level, if you were going to put your own spin on it.
Yeah.
Where did you guys land on that?
Yeah. So the level itself is exactly the same as it was in the original games. The handling, we tried to get as close as we could, but in certain cases we found there were times that we could improve the handling in the vehicle mode specifically, because modern tastes, especially with vehicles and controls for those vehicles, has changed a little bit. So whenever we thought it was a good idea, we did that. I think that's most notable probably in like the plane and the jetpack handling. We spent some time on that. They certainly benefited from, having analog controls and things of that nature.
this police force is not particularly efficient, I've noticed.
No, they're
They got room for improvement.
I'd say that's a very polite way of putting it. Yeah.
So did you guys go back and re-record Aku Aku's famous voice line, or is that pulled straight from the original game?
We did, in fact. Yes.
Oh, really?
Yep. Yeah, we found that.
Did you track down the original guy?
Overall, we found that the voice acting as pulled from just the disc really just wasn't of the quality that it needed to be for the PS4.
I mean, it's been 20 years,
Yes,
right?
Yep. And so we tracked down the original voice actors when we could, and when we couldn't, we found voice actors who had still worked with the franchise. We wanted to make sure they were familiar with it. I don't recall. I think it might be a new Aku Aku actor, but please.
Sounds indistinguishable.
Yeah.
Sid, can you do the impression of the Aku Aku sound?
I've never tried it. I've never tried it.
There you go.
That's good.
All right.
I just pulled that out of nowhere.
We'll hire you next time. All right.
Taking a look at another level here?
Yep. So this is the last level we have to share with everyone today.
Awesome.
Gone Tomorrow. Again, another beautiful level, which is why we wanted to show it off. But the other reason is that Crash 3 Warped especially has a huge variety of environments. And so we really wanted to illustrate that Crash has gone beyond the jungle and the ancient ruins, and now he's in the future, a dystopian future ruled by Neocortex.
Now, there's a huge variety of environments, but there's also a huge variety of idle animations, and I'm hoping we can maybe get a look at one of those right now.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So do nothing.
Do nothing, and we will watch and wait.
Something
This is where
funny's
the
going to
real
happen.
Skill comes in.
He looked. That was a...
He did as a subtle one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just took a peek.
While we're waiting for Crash to do some awesome idle animations, we briefly touched on this before we started recording, but I wanted to ask if you guys have any favorite idle animations. I think Crash was one of the originators and really having fun with it, but there have been so many good ones over the years.
Yes, I mean, certainly the Crash dance is a classic. I mean, everyone loves that one.
Did you guys get mocap actors to come in?
No, these are all hand animated. I think actually one of our more recent favorites is we had a idol competition.
Oh.
And you know, we asked all our fans to submit ideas, and they went and, geez, I don't know how many submissions we got. It was hundreds and hundreds of submissions, but yeah, we picked one, and it's Aku and Crash playing volleyball with one another.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's funny.
It's very, yeah, it's very charming. So we're really happy with how that one turned out.
Awesome.
I don't want to totally grind this to a halt, so feel free to keep playing.
Yeah,
but
yeah. We got the good one. We got the dancing.
Yeah.
I love idle animations. They're such an art form.
They are.
I like I think like Sonic 1 and 2 had really good idle animations.
They did. It's kind of a lost art too. It's
Yeah.
not something you see a whole lot anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I think at this point, a lot of games have just gotten so realistic that it's
Yeah.
part of the
Yeah.
general character's kind of
Yeah.
date, you know?
It used to be a primary way of, you know, sort of communicating the personality of the character.
I think a lot of that's also evolved into emotes and dances and things
That's
like
true.
that too.
That's true. Good analysis there.
Yeah.
This is a little daunting.
This looks like maybe one of the more difficult levels.
Yes, this is taken from toward the end of the game. So, you know, actually, it's a good point to illustrate here is that Crash 3 was also the first game to introduce Crash's power moves.
Ah.
And so he's got his, you know, supercharged body slam, but actually we're seeing good use of the fruit bazooka at this point.
Bam.
And that certainly helps make sure that Crash can take out some of the more difficult enemies at distance.
That's huge.
So, did you guys go back and work with Naughty Dog at all when you were putting this all together, just for guidance, or did they generally trust you to get it right?
Sony, we certainly have worked with you guys quite a bit, but Naughty Dog actually said that they would give us our space to make this
cool.
remaster. And what we did as a courtesy before we showed it off at PSX last year was we brought that demo to them.
Oh,
And
great.
they sat down and said they loved it. And right before we actually are now showing this to the public, we sat down with Naughty Dog again, and yeah,
Oh,
they had a
that's
great
great.
time with it. So I guess it gets a big orange thumbs up from Naughty Dog, which is awesome. And we're thrilled because, I mean, we really wanted to make sure we were doing right by Naughty Dog's creation here.
This is where it all began.
Yep.
Well, actually, it didn't. They were around before that too. They did a lot of other games, but
Yeah.
this is, I think, what really,
Yeah, I think
really
Crash
got them on the
really
map.
Kind of put
Yeah.
it on the map, yeah. Crash was
looks
kind of
great.
like the first mascot I remember PlayStation ever really having.
Yep.
I mean, it was central to PlayStation's identity, at least in the United States,
Yep.
for the first several years.
Yeah.
You guys have that big orange bodysuit around the office somewhere?
It is sitting in somebody's office right now. Yes. We have it.
Around
People
with
have
a
asked me to
megaphone.
wear it, but from what I've heard, it's a little uncomfortable to wear. So,
I mean, that thing's like it's priceless.
yeah. No, it when I saw that in person, it did tug my heartstrings a little bit.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it's like George Washington's wooden teeth, or you know Betsy Ross's like original flag or something. You know,
Yep.
you gotta put that in a museum. Look at all the nice reflections and
Yep.
stuff. Ooh.
Yeah, that was something actually that the original game did that our engine did not do,
Interesting.
and we were like, oh geez, I guess we got to put reflections in our game. So,
Really?
yeah.
It was like just like that. You're like, well, we got to have these reflections.
That's the level of detail that this has to be as people remember it. and
Wow.
People remember reflection, so
I feel like reflections are really hard to get right, too. Even a lot of modern games have a hard time with it.
they do. Yeah.
No expense spared.
Yep. Now, one thing that the original game didn't have that we decided to put in, which we've touched on in the past, is fur. And that was something where basically, I don't know, we were probably on our maybe 4th or 5th version of the Crash model, and we knew something just wasn't right about him. Just didn't seem right.
Mm-hmm.
And we eventually said, yeah, no, we've got to write a fur shader for Crash. And really, it's just because, you know, the rest of the environment, you know, we had planned to be so detailed, but, you know, Crash just didn't feel detailed enough. And so we implemented the first shader, and I think it's turned out fantastic.
Yeah, he looks really good.
Yeah. And, you know, the artists, you know, once you give them a tool, they're like, oh, so who else can we put fur on?
Yep.
Like, oh, you could do bosses, you know, maybe some of Crash's friends, you know, Polar. They're like, okay, cool. How about the goat? Can we put fur on the goat? Like, okay, yeah. And so pretty much soon enough, yeah, fur's everywhere in the game. This is by far
covered in
probably,
fur.
Yeah.
Furriest game ever.
This is the furriest game ever. It is. In the truest sense. So.
Well, I mean, Dan, I got to say, it looks tremendous. I really love to see just a classic series like this treated with such love and care.
Well, thank you.
And you know, I think we could all only hope that that other developers take you know, some inspiration here from the leadership you've provided on this, and kind of up their game a little on the remaster front. This is a whole new experience, yet strangely faithful to the original game.
Well, thank you. That means that we've done our job.
You
Yeah,
sure
you guys
have.
really struck an incredible balance here. Are there any other just general like quality of life enhancements you guys are making, either when you're talking about the menus or just?
Oh,
the
absolutely, absolutely. I think you know, while the core gameplay, you know, we've really tried to make sure we've, you know, struck that balance. I think there were certainly rooms to make improvements in quality of life areas. I mean, to give you an example, the first game save game system was fairly non-existent, so we knew we had to overhaul that. And even within kind of the manual system, save game system that I had in the original game, we decided that, you know, a lot of players just use automatic saving these days. So,
Yeah.
so we've added some conveniences like that. You know, we've unified the user interface and the pause menu to just be a lot more accessible so that players can easily just pick up and play and get into the game.
So nice. I mean, it just exceeds my expectations. Like, I like those little beauty shots you do, and you have the God rays streaming through. I mean, not what I think of when I think about Crash Bandicoot, but I'm loving it.
Cool. All right, we are almost at the end.
Time for the big finish.
Come on, you got it.
And there we are.
Nice. So that is Crash 3 Warped as part of Crash Bandicoot: The Insane Trilogy. Anything we missed? Anything else you want to make sure we talk about here?
I want to say to the PlayStation fans, you know, thank you, I guess. I mean, basically, it was their desire to, you know, really see a Crash remaster that kind of gave us this opportunity to make it. So we're excited to get it into their hands come June 30th.
Fantastic. Dan, thank you very much. That's Crash Bandicoot: The Insane Trilogy, out June 30th on PS4. Sid, thanks for joining us. And Dan, thank you for joining us. Stay tuned. We'll have more on Crash soon.
PlayStation